Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast on a very wet, miserable, rainy Sydney summer. Hi, Steve.
Hi, mate. Was that an appropriate hi, mate to kind
What's
of go
the hey,
with
mate?
miserable?
You've stopped saying hey, mate. You're doing that on purpose, aren't you?
Oh, I just said it.
You said
I just
hi,
tried
mate.
to do it in the most miserable, soggy way possible for like all my fans out there. But my voice has no intonation, so it always comes out the same way.
I know other people are listening. No, you're not monotone.
What do you want? Why is it that everything on Instagram, like when people post things and then there are bots out there that say promoted on Big Norks, .ig or whatever it is.
Really? I haven't seen that.
Does anyone is that effective? Like if you post something on your Instagram thing and then like the bots take over and there's all these things sort of telling tales of how some financial advice helped them out, or like there's car ones that kind of go promoted on, CarWiz whatever. Like surely that's so pest-like that it doesn't do them any good whatsoever to do that. Maybe I'm contradicting that by raising it right now.
I don't know. I get a lot of DMs from weird accounts, saying increase your followers or whatever, but they're always the AI of Instagram catches them in the back end. So like they're hidden messages. Sometimes real people's messages get caught up in there. So I miss, true people's messages, but in the messages, because I have the Instagram account, I don't know if you have the same one, because I have the creator type one. So you actually get more, you get more features. So you can actually do primary and general sort of DMs and separate them and stuff like that. But they also sort of take away the junk, the ones they think are the junk. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but there's a lot. Like sometimes I open it and there's a lot. There's like 20, 30 like messages in there, which are just all like spam basically. So
I notice lots of hot women want to make friends with me. It's like, oh,
yes,
that's interesting.
Yes, there's a lot of those. And if you look at those and you look at the trick with that is you look at the very first post that was created, and usually it's only been created like a month before, and they've got like, all these posts, and then, hello handsome or whatever they say to you. What do they say to you?
You spend a lot of time digging through this. I thought I was special.
I just see them every now and again. Sometimes they get through. Sometimes those ones actually get through for some reason because they don't think it's a dodgy account. But
some reason.
I don't know why. Hey, what's been happening? Let's go back. Let's go straight into the topic of conversation. Most podcast episodes, most of these episodes. Your exhaust, Steve. What's happening?
Swapping it this afternoon.
Did you buy something new, or are you going back to something old?
No, I'm just going back to the old one. Basically, I swapped it back to the Acura. It's a Acura. Can't remember what version of it is, but it's basically a muffler with side deletes. Swapped it out thinking that maybe the one that I had was too rowdy, and it gave me a headache one drive home. Admittedly, I hadn't slept because of the kids, all that sort of stuff. And I've been horsing around with it for it's maybe about a month and a half, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 years.
We haven't been able to go on many fun drives since I put the Acura back on. Because I kind of knew it when I put it back on that it's like, oh, it could be a little bit boring. And I was hoping to kind of, just sort of do some sort of fun drives with you guys to kind of test the theory out. I have driven a little bit to, like less fun drives to my parents and stuff like that. And the Acura, whilst it's good for listening to podcasts in the car, it's not much good for getting my jollies. So I figured, stuff it, I'm going to go back to my jollies. So I'm putting the old one back on. And hopefully when they put the old one back on, they'll get the valves working again, and that will hopefully be the happy medium.
Which was the main problem, right? And you wouldn't have known that. Let's be honest. If you wouldn't have changed it to the Acura, you wouldn't have known that the valves were stuck, because when he took it off, you noticed the valves were stuck, right?
Oh, I knew the valve was stuck because my little car Newell remote button-y thing, which opens and closes them, wasn't working, and you can literally hear the difference when you press that button. But I couldn't tell. I had a pretty strong suspicion that it was stuck open, and that was the case.
But how are you going? So how are they fixing? How are you fixing that though? How do you fix it?
They said that the hose that fits into the valve had a little split on the end. So it's literally kind of vacuum. So like all I have to do is snip the end of the hose off and then put it back over the valve, and it should work all over again.
So it's perfect then. Then you got switchable.
Yeah, look, God's honest truth is that switchable was still, even with the valves closed, it's still a fraction loud. Like it would be ideal if valves closed, it was a little bit quieter. Valves open was not quite so loud. Full confessions, like, in the last few weeks or whatever, there was a dude I bought my side muffler bypasses from, the guy in Hong Kong that I told you about.
Yes.
And you keep sort of saying, did you buy your exhaust in Hong Kong? It's like, no. I just made friends with this dude who was on Renlist and was selling side muffler bypasses online.
Yeah.
He's got a Gen 1 RS, I think. I don't really know. I'm not going to say his name out here and all that sort of stuff.
Is he selling that? You buying that?
No, I wish. But I could tell from conversations, like, how it is, you wind up having chats with people, and basically he'd tried every exhaust known to man. Like he'd had a full Acra, he's got the full Dundon at the moment. He tried a JCR center thing, and he'd sort of done all these mixtures because, like I've said in the past, with the GT3, you've got two main components. Well, there's three actually. There's the headers and the cats, the side mufflers and the center muffler, and classically you horse around with the side and the center. This guy in Hong Kong had tried all these different brands. He'd switched all these different things, including headers and stuff like that. So in the last couple of weeks, I think I reached out to him and just sort of said, can I pick your brains? Like, do you reckon headers made a big difference to the sound? And his response to me, like knowing that he'd tried, like many, many different things, he sort of said, God's honest truth is that I got power from headers. He's tried EVOM headers, which Sharkworks used to sell.
Yeah.
And he's got Dundon long tube headers on his car. He said that he got lots of power out of it, but he sort of said sound. He said, if you're doing it for sound, he said it's not that much of a difference.
Oh, right.
So, sorry, that's a long-winded way of sort of saying, for me, I'm going back to the old one because I'm a tight ass and I was relatively happy with it. And B, more to the point is that if you were going to chase like the perfect sound, it sounds like, going from his experiences, that's a massive, massive, massive can of worms where you could be spending a bucket load of money and you might never get to it. Because I thought that maybe headers might be the solution. Not that I've got the money to kind of buy them, but it just sort of sounded like he concurred with some of my experiences, kind of thing.
But the thing is, if you just put the Acra on and it's not you anymore, are you going to sell the Acra?
No, hang on to it.
Really? Just in case?
I think so.
Does it only fit the GT3 or does it fit other 911s?
No, GT3 system is different from it'll fit. I'm going to take a guess that it'll probably fit a 996 and maybe a 991.1, but some of those center ones are interchangeable.
Does it fit a turbo, 996 turbo? Mesger engine?
No, I think the turbo system is completely different.
Right.
So yeah, that's where I've gotten to. Like I said to Marco last time, I was having a chat. The conversation with Marco is like, oh man, I hope I don't regret this.
I think it's fine though. If it's working how it should work, I think it'll be fine. I mean, the problem is once the button's working, right?
Yeah, and I think I said it when you asked last podcast. I know you keep asking and everyone's probably sick of hearing it, but I think actually a big part of it is usage still. If I was a track monkey, then it would be way too loud and it would basically kill you. because, like at the moment, this car has become more a weekend fun drive thing, hopefully with you and Marco sort of thing. I think just the view of it more is it's like, oh, well, you may as well put the exhaust where you kind of get the maximum amount of kind of jollies, like for a fun drive, and not worry less about how it is on the freeway, worry less how it is, like in traffic, sort of say, because that's not the main goal for the car.
I guess when you're going over to your parents in traffic, you should take the Macan, you shouldn't take the GT3. You know what I mean? If you're getting stuck in traffic, I guess those sort of things. But, for all the listeners, if they haven't heard this before, and people who are listening to this podcast for the very first time, your exhaust is loud. You know what I mean? And it's loud yes, to the point that I'm 2 cars back and I only have my driver's window down, 2 inches, 5 centimeters. And I can hear Steve's, exhaust way back, and I'm behind you, and it's loud. When you open it up, it's loud. And it sounds good.
On, yeah.
It sounds good. I don't know how it sounds in the cabin because I haven't been in the cabin since you've had that exhaust in. It might be too loud for me. I don't like it when I'm, constant sort of noise like that in the cabin can be a little bit off-putting. You know what I mean?
Wild guess is that I reckon it would be really annoying for you. Marco sort of said that he liked it again, but neither of you have been properly in the car with either the Acura or this system in it. So
I think I've been in with the Acura.
Yeah, but not sort of kind of going like for a, spirited drive sort of thing.
Yep. Okay, mistakes. We've made some mistakes along the way.
Oh, yes, I made a big one.
You made a mistake last week. Someone pulled you out, made a point of telling you were wrong about something.
Oh, yeah, in a nice way. It was cool, like completely cool. And I wanted to correct myself because I think it may have been I misread either I misread an article or a journo got it wrong, which was that sort of the whole kind of ship catching on fire and going down. Like it actually never went down, and it didn't have GT2 RSs. That was the previous one, like from a few years ago. So that thing that I was sort of saying to you is like, oh wow, like could you get a 2022 or 2023 GT2 RS? No, one GT2 RS. Obviously, that ship was from a few years ago, sort of thing. So
yeah, and when you said that, you would have heard the doubt in my voice because I hadn't seen it.
Yeah. And I have doubt too when I was sort of saying it, but it's just like, I'm sure that's how I read it. So,
and you're probably right. There was probably someone that reprinted it and tied it back into this ship, which is now sunk. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that article. It now has officially sunk.
It did sink?
It's sunk. It's in the bottom of the ocean. It's going to be a coral collector. With all the cars, it's gone. So it happened the other day that there was a mess. No, there was a news thing the other day. I think it was on Spike's. I saw it on Spike's Instagram after I read it. He put it up there as a post that it actually has sunk.
Yep.
Now, I made a bit of an error too, because me, PJ and Todd, I know you're probably listening, all 356s look the same. I don't really know the differentiation.
Did you say that?
I don't know the differentiation between an A, a B, and whatever. And also when I'm looking at the back of them, when I'm looking at the back of 356s, I never. Yes. Well, anyway, cut a long story short, at the Duck and Whale event, I said that John at Pro Stitches 356 had a 911 engine in it. And I do remember Marco standing there looking at the engine with Marco. And it wasn't that one. It was the one next to it, which I think is
Brian from Zollhouse?
Zollhouse, yeah, who's also he's got another Instagram as well, hasn't he? I can't remember what it is. I think it was his car. Oh Brute on Instagram, yeah. So if you're listening, Ryan, is it? I got it wrong. Yeah. John, I got it wrong. So it was actually Ryan's car. Both of them beautiful 356s. And I only make that joke about me and 356s because 356 I don't know a lot about. I know there's pre-A and there's A and there's B and there's C and there's, Gemund.
There's a moral to this story for all the listeners out there. Don't take anything that we say as gospel because we know shit.
Well, because you're at this event, and I think all of us, I think Marco even said the same thing, and you're a bit delirious because there's a lot of things to look at. You want to see everything. You got people talking to you. You're walking around. It's like it's very early in the morning for me, especially. I didn't wake up for probably another half an hour after I got there. So, you sort of, you make errors. I was doubting whether that Spider in the Duck and Whale episode last week, I was doubting whether the Spider was a 718 or not, because you said it to me. You said it's a 981, and I thought, is it a 981? Because there was a 981. Yeah. There was a 981 there, a red one. There was about 3 Spiders there that day. We were talking about that one in particular with the exhaust.
Yeah.
But I think it was a 718. I looked back through some of the video I took. Yeah, it was? Okay.
Because I never saw it from the back, and I could pick it from the back. But are there any differences from the front? Did they actually change that front apron, the bumper, and everything?
I think there is.
Because they're very, very similar, right?
I don't know. It's hard to tell the difference. You know what I mean? It's hard, isn't it? You know, I look at that white 993, and that was parked there, and I thought, oh, that's a nice 993. Was that a Carrera S? And it's an RS. You know what I mean? So what do I know until I walk around the back and see the wing? Well, so many people change the front on their 993s, right? You change the front on your 993. It's hard to tell with 993s whether they're something special until you go to the rear.
993 RS is pretty special for me.
What is the market value of a 993 RS?
God knows. It'd be right up there, though. Like
1 mil? Aussie?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not as keen sort of follower of values, and most of it doesn't really stick in my brain. But I don't know. I don't think it would be $1 million yet, would it?
Wasn't there a turbo for sale that was 999,000 on car sales? Someone was trying to sell a turbo, 964 or something turbo. There was one. I think it might have been at Porsche then, actually.
It's like that the 4-litre, the 997 RS 4-litre that's at Richmond's. It's been sitting there for like more than 6 months, almost a year.
I can't believe it though.
That's
if you
over
wanted
$1 million.
One, I know, Steve. But this is a GT3 RS 4.0 white with red, right? It's a white with red.
Yeah. Oh, they all. Yeah.
They're all
it's
white
the same
and red.
Stickers on all of them. No.
Yeah, no.
The stickers are the same.
Some are gold, right?
No.
No, but isn't TGE's one white with gold stickers?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's a normal RS. It's a 3.8 RS, not a 4-litre RS.
Oh, I thought it was a 4-litre RS. Okay,
TGEs,
so they're all the same then.
Yeah.
But anyone who's
those stickers are horrible too.
It's just sitting there. It's just sitting there. Anyone that wants the 4.0, it's like there's one there in white. Like you could just take it. It's there.
But it's over $1 million. I mean, I guess
it's worth it.
I guess if you had the money, like that, like at some point in time, it will be worth $1 million, easy. But right now, I don't know. I have no idea. It's just completely different market, right? You just don't know. And the funny thing about that car is that there's they're asking over $1 million, but like the least they could have done is change the front splitter, the spoiler thing on it.
Yeah.
There's just the odd little thing where you kind of go, well, are you really kind of serious about selling it, or are you just trying to appease your wife?
Who was I listening to the other day who said that they really hate seeing cars for sale and people haven't vacuumed the mats, the inside?
Could have been me.
Was that you?
Could have been me or Marco.
Was that you or Marco? Because I don't know, this week I've been looking at cars for sale and, different sort of cars, and like there's so many of them, like clean it. And then, the 911, the common trait of people, like you said, people not getting in carefully with the seat bolster being a bit worn and the scuffing on the plastic plate on a 997, the outer door sill. All you need is a bit of product, wipe it over, and then the scratches don't look as bad for your photographs. But so many dealers still take photos of I see new 911s or newish 911s, and they're all scuffed up. And then the side of your seat bolster, put a bit of leather nourisher on your seat so it doesn't look so dry and like you haven't touched it in 10 years. I don't know. Presentation.
There's also, I agree. There's one on that trading garage auction platform, which I'd heard of before and I looked into it. It's
that was the one actually.
They've got a
filthy.
Yeah, they've got a 997.1 GT3 like mine.
Filthy.
Which kind of looks like it's a pretty good spec. It's a club sport, right? Yeah, it's a club sport, and it's got that what's it called? Group M carbon airbox in it. Blah blah blah. Relatively low Ks. Like I think it was about 42 or something like that.
So was this the car that ages ago you wanted to buy that box from? The guy that sold it originally?
I was asking the guy because he was in Mount Eliza in Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. Because I just wanted to know whether it made any, whether the airbox was any good or not. And he sort of said to me he couldn't tell because he bought the car with it on there, so he didn't know the answer to that question.
But that was the GT3 that was for sale for a long time, that was spoken about on Porsche Forums Australia, and it was sitting there for a long time, that one with the airbox. It was for sale for a long time.
I don't remember that bit.
Yeah, a long time. Long time.
It's back when they were much cheaper.
So now it's for sale, but it's not detailed properly. It's not detailed properly.
Exactly. It's like, it's not that hard to kind of clean a car properly. Like, and if you don't have the time, yeah, you can pay somebody to do it. Or I'll up your comment about like the scuffing on the door sills. It's like, they're not that expensive. Like, it's a bit of plastic. Just change it. And
it's $100.
Buy a bit and change it. Like, I'm sure you'd recoup that $100 because scuffed door sills to me is a surefire sign of the person that owned that car doesn't care about it, because I really don't think it's that hard to not scuff the plates.
I think that car, that one for sale, and others, not going to pinpoint them directly, is just the laziness in the market at the moment, that these people who are selling think that they're going to get the money regardless, and you don't have to go to that little bit of extra effort that you used to do to make your car presentable for sale. And like, for me, you sent it to me, and it's like, I just don't want to look at it. You know what I mean? When I see that, it's like, you can't be bothered to like clean it or replace that, or like you said, or just make it right for sale. It's like,
I've just pulled up the ad for it. Like, it's got 3 days to go, and it's at 183.
I was 183. Someone sent me a link the other day to an auction site, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. And it's an auction site in Australia, and I think they've got a 912 for sale with a ducktail.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that it's some auction house, actually, and I can't remember what the name of it is. It's gone past me. And it said on there that you can only have a visual inspection. You can't do a proper PPI inspection. Is not allowed. It's like, you can look at it,
narrow your market.
A quick visual inspection or something, not a full inspection. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, they won't even let you do a check on the car. You just have to trust them. And then they give the disclaimer that the description is accurate to what they say it is, but it could be wrong.
To their knowledge or whatever.
Yeah, like, come on. You know what I mean? Come on. Maybe that's just Australia, I don't know, but that's just insane. But I really think the market is lazy. I think people who sell cars at the moment are very, very lazy, because especially Porsche, Steve, they just think they're just going to get the money regardless, and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I do think that there's an assumption at the moment that because there's this kind of crazy bubble thing that's going on, that everyone just sort of thinks that they're going to rake it in. And look, maybe they would. I'm not in the market, so I don't really know. I'm not buying, I'm not selling. I have no idea what values that these cars are trading hands at, but it's not like, even that, going back to that trading garage one, like the front spoiler lip too. It's like,
I know, $200, right?
Oh, that part got expensive. It's now $700, but
Whoa.
Like, it's still worth swapping out if you kind of want to fetch top dollar. Like, I think if you're expecting to command top dollar and you want like, $250 and beyond or whatever for that thing, you really should be doing it. I know you could counter that with, well, the new owner only has to spend $700 to swap that out, or they can just get the vacuum out themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, that's $1,000 for the 2 door sills and the front lip, and clean the car a little bit better. I saw another car for sale. I'm not going to mention where it is because I don't want to say it in a bad way, but I was surprised when I saw it. Another car which I thought was quite appealing. And then looking closely at the pictures, it looks like there's a hole in the carpet, like the carpet's worn through where the guy's rested his foot, right? It's worn through. Yep. And I'm thinking, well,
is that the mat or the carpet underneath?
No, it looks like it's the carpet underneath. And that's what I was going to say. If you're selling a car like that, wouldn't you just buy the mats? You have a parts department, buy the mats, put the mats in, and at least then, you say, well, there is a hole under there, but it's got the mats, you won't see with the mats. I don't know. To me, that's just like, because I look at that and I go, oh, it hasn't been looked after. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. Maybe we're a bit crazy.
I think there's so many telltale signs. Like, I think, again, in this day and age when, people have been locked down and you can't necessarily kind of travel around or fly to another city to go and check out a car. There are so many easy ways of picking things in photos. Like, it doesn't take much to kind of be able to pick when somebody's cared for their car, or when somebody like has neglected it. And I know that's based on opinion. Like my version of neglected is probably different to, somebody else's, but.
Yeah. I was trying to find a post then and I've forgotten, and I've completely got a blank this morning. Who Magnus Walker bought his 991 Turbo S from in LA.
Right.
And I can't remember the nice guy's name. It's like a dealer, and he's on those drives with Porsche Life 111. Anyway, he had a post about the 3 best Porsches to buy, the ones to buy, the collectible ones. One of them was a 987 Spider. I'm trying to think what the other two were. Okay. I'm trying to think of his name. It's just completely slipped my mind. It's completely slipped my mind. It might come back to me, and I'll come back to it. But 987 Spider, and then he had 2 others. The 3 cars that he thinks are the collectible ones.
987 Spider. You mean the green one? No, that was a Cayman.
Yeah, the 987 Boxster Spider.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That was the first one.
The one that's for sale. The one that's for sale in Sydney at the moment in the platinum color. The one you said you'd rather than the one after that. That model.
Isn't that a 981? That's a 981 Spider, isn't it?
It's 987.
I'm confused. Okay.
That's 987.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, another guy in the UK's got one as well that I follow on Instagram. He's got a black one, but it's 987. Yep. But that was one of the ones he mentioned, which I thought was interesting that was on the list. That's all. I just thought it was interesting. And I can't remember his name. It's in my head and I can see it, but I can't remember the name of the Instagram account.
Is your spider fetish growing?
Yeah, I like the spiders. I think a lot of people seem to be appreciating spiders. I know in the
Good
prices
for Sydney Summers, right?
Yeah,
Sydney Summers. To have one right now.
Exactly. I know the prices though are a bit weird because I remember I was looking at them and PDKs and manuals, and they were still selling at 105, 109, and I think a few of them came up, Steve, and not that long ago. I'm talking 6 months. Mm-hmm. The latest ones that have come up, the white one sold, that was 138, 135. And then I think this other 987 that's come up, which is first owner, like no kilometers in platinum, which is a really good example if it hasn't sold already. I think that's about the same, about 130. So they've jumped up 30K in the last six or so months. They really have, because people kind of kept away from the 987 one, right? A little bit.
Yeah, I think because like mechanically it didn't have as many sort of improvements in inverted commas as, like until like Andy Pointinger kind of got his hands on it more recently. Yep. So then it's sort of a bit more credible or whatever the word is.
Yep. Let me just go back to Patreon, Steve. There's no new members for PorscheCooled this week. I'm not going to promote that this week. There's no new members. But I just wanted to do a shout out to Matt again. Matt actually told me, I did a shout out last week. He was a new member. He just bought, he did buy the 991.1 GT3 RS. It wasn't the one that he did the PPI on. It was another one, I think he said. But he's actually got one. So very, very cool. So
that'd be mad.
Yeah, that'd be mad. And then color? Porsche, I think he said silver, which I like it in silver. Nice. I think it was silver.
Yeah, I do too.
I like it in silver. There was one for sale at that dealer in ACT in Canberra, the Porsche dealer, for a while there. Yeah, yep. Golson's had 1.1 for a while there, and it was a really well spec'd. I still think if I got a GT3 RS, I don't know, I still think the purple. I really like the purple, and I'm not a big fan of purple, but I like that.
Yeah, ultraviolet. I'm not a fan of that purple, ultraviolet.
But I think you might be like too much on display. A bit like being in a Spider or a convertible,
That'd be less attention grabbing, wouldn't it?
Maybe. I don't know.
It's more that you can see. Remember whenever I've driven a roofless car, as long as you just look ahead, never look to your side, never look left or right, and then you're okay. Like if you can't see other people looking at you, then you don't become self-conscious.
I was next to a guy last week when I drove the car last on that Sunday when I was going backwards and forwards all day after the Duck and Whale event. And I was next to a guy in a GT500 Mustang convertible. Yep. And it's like, man, really on display. You're really on show.
Careful what you say.
But you kind of liked wanting to be on display. You could see it. He was enjoying it. I don't know about that. I'm just not sure about it.
Yeah. You do feel exposed.
Speaking of convertibles, I have been doing, I'm going to throw something in here. I have been looking at cars during the week because I saw something else that came up. I've been looking at those Z4 coupes.
Yeah, they're cool.
And they're really cool.
There was one at Duck and Whale next to the E30.
Yeah, E46. But not the Z3 one, the Z4 ones. The Z3 ones, there's a couple for sale, are expensive. There actually is a Z4 coupe for sale on car sales at the moment. It's not an M. It's just a Z4 coupe.
That would still be a mad car, yeah.
It's black. It's got a red interior. Yep. It's got hardly any kilometers, and the guy wants 40 grand for it. I reckon it's an absolute bargain.
40? Is that
40.
all?
Yeah. So Steve,
that's pretty good, isn't it?
50-50, 20%, 20,000 each. I got 20 grand ready if you're ready to do it.
Plan Z.
I share it. You can store it. You can drive it. It's a good one.
Oh, maybe it's time to sell something.
Yeah.
Sell my wife.
Yeah, it's only 20 grand. I'll send you the link, but there's only one. If you do a search, it comes up. Manual too, of course.
They're supposed to be quite revered in the BMW community. I mean, I know the M Coupe is sort of more desirable, but the 2.8 litre engine in that thing is really good. It's like, like iconic straight six BMW engine. They're really great.
I love the look.
Do it.
There is a Z4M for sale, but the guys had it completely resprayed, and I think that's about 80,000. I think the one for 40 grand is in Adelaide as well, so know it's well looked after because it's in Adelaide. But it's nice with the black and the red interior. It's got a bit of style to it. Looks really well looked after.
Tasha can't hear you, can she? Can Tasha hear?
Yeah, of course.
Can she? Because let's sell her as well and get that instead.
I got nothing left to sell. I wish I had something to sell. Hey, before I get on to PorscheCooled owner stories, because we've left it a little bit late in the episode, the IK Foam Pro 2 sprayer that you recommended, Steve, I used it. I managed to get into my car wash bay and I used it. It works. I don't know whether I've got, as I said to you before recording, I don't know whether I've got a dud. I have to pump it a lot. Is that usual? Is that what you have to do? I mean, I had to pump it probably 10 times during the car wash.
You stopped and then you had to go again, and then you stopped and then you had to go again.
Yeah, I had to because it just lost all the pressure. So
yeah, mine definitely didn't do that.
And it comes out in lines. It like sprays it in line more than a shower spray. So I don't know whether there's something wrong with mine or I'm doing something wrong. Probably I'm doing something wrong. But I did use it. I mean, apart from that, the suds were good. The soap was good. The Adams soap that I bought was very, very good.
Did you feel yourself not scratching the car as you were using this?
I don't know. I mean, it's good. I think the wheels are a lot cleaner because I did the wheels and first, and then let it sit on the wheels for a while. And I think the wheels actually look a lot cleaner, even though I usually do it with my mitt. You know what I mean? But I did do it with the mitt afterwards as well, so I did both. Yeah,
I think I still kind of maintain that even though I'm kind of converted to all this foamy kind of business. If your car's properly dirty, you kind of still need to contact the paint. You need to agitate it to kind of clean it properly. I don't think doesn't matter how much chemical or how much foam or whatever and how much pressure washing you kind of do on your car, you still need to actually kind of
I did it twice.
The grime to kind of get rid of it.
Yeah. Mine wasn't that dirty.
How long did it take you?
Not long. Maybe 20 minutes more.
Well,
only because I was pumping for half the time,
Okay, that's not too bad. It
was good
because it gets to the point where it's really hard. Like it's so pressurized, you can't push the handle, pump that much more.
Not really. This is what I'm thinking. I don't know whether there's something wrong with mine. I mean, maybe I need to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe I need to try it again and just see. I'll try it again. I mean, my car at the moment, and I said this to Steve earlier, but so the listeners know, I washed it, I waxed it a bit, and then I put it under the cover, and it's been under the cover all week. It's been under the cover a week because in Sydney it's pouring down with rain, and I know there's a couple of people there saying, "Michael, you can drive in the rain," and I know who they are, and it's like you don't want to drive in rain in Sydney. It's a bit crazy. But last night when I went to get takeout, takeaway, take home, whatever you call it, it started to rain, and all of a sudden the horns were starting, the waterfalls were starting. It was like, it's just aggro out there when it rains. People just don't cope on the road with rain here. I just find it gets all very manic. Like everyone sort of goes a bit crazy. I just don't want to drive in that sort of weather. And then, like as you said before, all the potholes that have been created, it's a bit rough.
Yeah, it's pretty awful out there. The weather's been really, really intense. Like, I don't know, it's been more than a week already, is it?
It's more than a week, yeah. Have you been driving your car?
Nope, I've been out.
Yeah.
We took the McCann out yesterday. It was my daughter's first birthday. But
happy birthday. Did you get her something nice?
A toy.
Watch? A Cartier bracelet?
No, that was last year.
What? No, I meant Emily. I meant Emily. What did you get Emily?
There's this whole birth year thing going on too. like I noticed like people kind of talk about getting a birth year car or getting a birth year watch. And all this sort
I
of
don't know
stuff.
about that. I'm not sure about that. Steve, speaking of detailing, I was doing the segue into it. PorscheCooled Owner Stories this week, number 71. Have you listened to it?
No, I haven't. Sorry.
It's David.
Been busy.
Hello, David. David's from Sydney. Actually, he's from Sydney, Australia. I say Sydney, but it is Sydney. He's near Camden. He's in the green of Camden. He had a really good story. David and I we first spoke, I think I said in the podcast, and I'm trying to remember, back in 2019, I think it was, when David was looking for 911s. He sent me a couple of messages through Facebook, and we were chatting. I think that was when I was in Bahrain, when I first got to Bahrain. But he eventually found his car. He's got a 2001 Steve 996 Turbo. I thought Marco would be interested in this one. Meridian over Metropole. It's got 19-inch roof wheels. It's got a roof wing. I think he said Gambala springs and a 1-bar tune by Auto Art.
Cool.
So the car... Spec. Yeah, and the car was and I'm not going to give it away, as I always say, but the ad was very misleading because it was advertised as Arctic Silver with black leather, right? So David goes and looks at it. I think it was in Albury, and it's like, this is not Arctic Silver, and this is not black leather. So a very weird ad, but heaps of, as David said, it's one of those cars you find, and I've had other people on Owner Stories, and I mentioned this in that episode, who have had similar situations where they go and look at a car and it's so badly photographed or advertised, and they go and see it and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. You know what I mean?
It's quite a unique color, right?
I think it was Josh, actually. Josh with the ocean blue 996. I think with Josh with his blue 996. I think it was Josh as well. When he went and picked up the car, the guy was a bit odd, and then it's like fantastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
David hasn't really had a lot of, he said most of the cars, I asked him what were his most memorable cars, and he said most of his cars were shit boxes. So I hope that the international audience knows what that means.
I'm pretty sure that's universal.
Is it? He said most of the shit boxes, but he had a lot of road bikes and sports bikes, and he's a detailer in Sydney. He's got a detailing business, a mobile detailing business. He started it when he was, he left school at 16 and started it straight out of school before he even had his license. And I thought he said a couple of good things, David, and I know you're listening. David said a couple of great things. It's like it took him 20 years to get the car. And he said basically he cleaned the car. It took him 2 months to clean the car properly. Like he's got like a proper shed. He's got lifts, Steve. If you look at David's Instagram, you'll see his shed, like his little shed. It's like everyone's dream. And he basically took everything apart, cleaned it. He got the wheels repainted because they were sort of like, they were roof wheels, but they'd had some kind of chrome finish put on them. So he went back
to
like
roof wheels are awesome.
Yeah, they're
my
awesome.
favorite wheels.
They look fantastic. And they're 19-inch, but they look fantastic on the turbo. They really do. Marco, if you're listening, they really look great, really good.
I remember reading about roof wheels when I was in my 993 a lot, even my 964. And, like on the classic kind of Renless forum stuff, people would kind of complain or sort of criticize them for being really heavy.
Yeah.
But then I'd remember reading other things where people kind of said it makes absolutely no difference. Like, and yeah, I don't know, just on looks alone, they look really, really kind of sweet design.
Yeah. Who else had, Andrew. Andrew from 911 South in the US, who was on a very early Owner Stories. He got those roof wheels for his 993 that he bought. He put the roof wheels on, and he got those seats from some guy in America. I think they're like replica sort of RS seats or whatever they were. I forget what the seats were.
Yeah, right.
Andrew's probably going, they're not RS seats, but whatever the seats were. And those two changes to that car just made the car look so cool. I don't know whether you've seen that video on Andrew's YouTube channel, but it's on 911 South. So it made the car look fantastic. I really liked it. I thought David said
right, Marco, get off your ass. Get some roof wheels. They're good. They're really good.
Yeah, get some roof wheels.
Because they've kind of got that sort of slightly hyper silver effect as well, don't they? I'm pretty sure it's not like a standard silver. It's kind of got like a slightly, like that BMW-ish type finish.
Yeah, have a look at David's Instagram. It's at Roof 996 Turbo. Roof 996 Turbo. The color's really cool. That Meridian has got, it's almost like
slightly champagne.
To me, it's champagne. Yeah, rose. I called it rose. It has that rose tint where we talk about polar silver blue tint. Arctic's more black, GT's more brown, and this has got that sort of champagne-y rose color. It's a beautiful looking car. He's detailed it so well. Like he cleaned the ass off it basically, and then he got the wheels redone. And it took him 2 months. He said it took about 2 months to clean it and sort everything out. But he said that was okay because he's waited 20 years to get this car. It's his first real nice car, and it's a great story. But David has the list, Steve. I just want to tell you this because you'll hear it, but I want to tell you now. He has the price list of all the options. The car, the car was built in December 2000, I think, but it's an '01 model.
Yep.
331,000 Australian dollars. That's how it's got carbon options. That's how much it cost, 331,000. I don't know whether Marco has that for his car. I'd be interested to know what his 0.2 costs because that's what David's costs. He has the list. So the car had all the documentation. It had so much documentation, and he sorted it all out and traced the history and everything. But it's a good story. Go and have a look at David's Instagram. It's at Roof996 Turbo. Give him a follow and tell him you heard his story on PorscheCooled. But it's a good one if you haven't listened to it already. Make sure you take a listen.
Did he? Because I haven't listened to it yet. I've had a busy week. But did he answer the favorite roads question? Because I've always wondered if there's some really good roads around that part of.
He did, and you'll have to listen to it because I can't remember where it was now. Yeah. But there was a good recommendation there, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
But it's a good area to be. I mean, I love David's shed. I like how he said he's got his shed. It's like, that's not a shed. That's huge. Look at the shed where he's got his cars. And a proper lift. It's got everything. It's fantastic. It's a really good story, a really nice story that, you work hard and you get something like this and it's just a good story. Very good story.
Yep.
Steve, I've got a recommendation and it's, I'm not going to say the word, but it's one that you recommended to me, which we haven't said on the podcast, and I bought it and I used it. I used it on Saturday to wash my car. Sunday or whatever it was to wash my car, and it's the Adams. It's the Adams 10-inch car wash pad. Now Steve said this to me, and I've got like a mint one, I think, which is blue and white that I got from Car Care Products, and I've got something else.
One?
Yeah, microfiber one, I think it is. And then I bought a blue sponge as well from the IK2 Pro people. They had this blue sponge, and I thought I could use it on the wheels. Got little dimples on the top. It's supposed to be a really good sponge. Yep. So I bought one of those. And then Steve said, I thought, I don't want to buy any more things. I've got enough. And then Steve said, you've got to get that. It's really good. So because I was buying from Adams, I was already buying the car firm stuff. I'd already placed that order. I emailed them. This is Adams in Australia, which is the same as the US. Very, very helpful. Great company to deal with. Really good company. And it was a discount at the time for Valentine's Day. And I said, look, I just placed this order, but I want the mitt. Can you put it in the same order? She said, yes, no problem. Didn't charge me any more shipping and just put it in the box. So it's good. But it's a 10-inch car wash pad. And Steve is actually right. It is
good, isn't it?
Amazing. And compared to the mint one that I've been using, I don't know if that's an Australian brand or an international brand, but the mint one was good. But this one is amazing. And why is it good? And Steve knows the reason already. It holds lots of water. It keeps the soap. It's so smooth, it glides over your paintwork. Like it literally glides over your paintwork. It's made of synthetic wool. I don't think it's real wool. I think it's synthetic wool. Synthetic wool. But, it's supposed to lift the dirt away. It's supposed to, the dirt's supposed to go in your bucket. It's not supposed to scratch your car. It's a really good product, and it's quite cheap, right, Steve? I can't remember the price. It's not that expensive.
No, I don't know about cheap, but it's worth it. Like, I'd kind of gone through many different things. Like, I think all the rage at the moment of that American rag trade company thing, whatever it's called.
Yes.
The rag company. I've tried some stuff from them. And I can't remember why. I just sort of stumbled across that one. I sort of thought that I'd give it a go. I looked at it and sort of thought, even when you kind of receive it and you kind of look at it, you go, that looks like it's really scratchy because it's synthetic and it looks like a sheepskin rug type thing as opposed to microfiber.
But it glides.
So I sort of thought, this looks like if it kind of catches a bit of dirt, it's going to stay in there. But I was pleasantly surprised. So I've kind of got 4 of them.
Really? I didn't get 4. I got 1. It's just so you know, Steve's got more money than me. It's $30 Australian.
So much more money.
So I bought one. $30 Australian. You're rich.
I view Michael as a peasant. He's like the gum on my shoe, basically. Why did I buy 4? Because I also saw somebody talking about like the best
washing method, like the whole 2-bucket thing.
Yeah.
The alternative to the 2-bucket is that you put multiple mitts or sponges in your bucket, so you never rinse one that's dirty.
Right.
So if I put two of those big things in my bucket, I can basically almost kind of cover the car without having to kind of go back with a dirty mitt, if that makes sense.
It's interesting when you hear the story, you'll hear it, but
I also only ever wear my underwear once.
Really?
Yeah, I discard it after I wear it once.
I actually used to work with someone that used to do that. No,
can you name names?
Well, you can guess. He's not alive anymore, but you can guess.
I probably could guess.
So, David's story, I just want to go back to it actually, because David's a detailer, right? And David said to me, he said, you're not really a fan of ceramic coating. And I said, it's not that I'm not a fan. Maybe I've led on to that. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of paying the money, and I'm not a fan of hearing the stories about how long it takes to maintain, which he agrees fair. It does take longer to maintain, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But he said,
he did? Cool.
Yeah, and David's got a great way of looking at it. He said, if you enjoy Sunday afternoon, and when we were talking, it was a beautiful day. It was that, maybe it was last Sunday, maybe it was after the duck and whale thing, I don't know. It was after the duck and whale thing, actually. It was the same day. Right. And he said, I had a busy day that day. And then we're talking, and he said, look, if you enjoy, like on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, going out, cracking a beer open and washing your car and waxing your car, then there's nothing wrong with that, and stick to it. If you're that sort of person that enjoys that and something you enjoy, just stick to it. There's nothing wrong with doing your car with a 2-bucket. And I thought that's a good way of looking at it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's a bad thing. Maybe the other ways, more better, but it's not a bad thing. The wax won't last as long, but it won't last as long as ceramic. But at least if you enjoy it, then just keep doing it. And I thought that was a really good advice and a good way of looking at it, because we can get caught up in all this ceramic coating and double PPFing and PPFing and, PPFing watches and not wearing watches until you get it scratched. Steve sent me a great image the other day of a watch was it an AP or a Patek?
It was an AP, the gold AP Royal Oak.
It was a gold AP Royal Oak, and it was worn, right? It was scratched to death. And that's what you want to see in a watch. You want to see the life of it. There's a great image that was on Hodinkee, and it's probably still on Hodinkee, of Ed Sheeran's Patek, I think it's a Patek actually, that he wore to death. And it's scratched like anything as well, because he wears it on stage. He just wears it like a normal watch. And of course, if you're wealthy, people say that's because you're really wealthy and it doesn't matter. But your watch has so much more life to it, And I'm still I don't like scratches as much as the next person, but you need to have a bit of personality in your car and your furniture and your watches. You can't just have everything that looks brand new all the time.
Yeah, that gold AP that I sent you, I'd never seen a watch like that, because like literally all the kind of edges on it, all the beveled edges and stuff were completely kind of rounded off. And I know it's gold, so it's a softer kind of metal, but that was one seriously worn Royal Oak. And when you kind of look at it, you kind of go, is that really still kind of worth? I think this was on Watch Collecting.
That's right.
Is it still worth that kind of money? But then you look at it and you just kind of go, somebody's really enjoyed that watch. So it's cool that they've kind of, gotten that much wear out of it.
Yeah. The things a watch has seen, basically, the thing that watch has seen. Hey, what do you want to talk about next?
Whatever you like. You go.
I don't know. I mean, you sent me that thing on, we'll get into the 992 thing actually, I think, but you did send me that post on Renlist. And I know people say don't trust Renlist. I don't trust Renlist. But it had best drivers 911. I kind of read that post and I thought it was a bit elitist. I don't know if it's just me.
You don't forget to, you said this to me off mic, that you felt that way. This was posted on the 997 GT3 kind of forum. So,
okay. Do you want to talk about it, Steve, or not? I mean, there was a poll they put on. I just thought it was vaguely kind of interesting. Like, that's pretty much what I read on the 997 GT3 forum. The poll results came up, unsurprisingly, as the 997 GT3 RS being 62% of the votes as the best driving 911. The other contenders were 996 GT3, 964 RS, 992 GT3, and 991 GT3 RS. There was also like a section for something else, please state.
which was the second highest vote. It's like, yeah, I just stuck it on our notes because I sort of thought, oh yeah, it's interesting. And God's honest truth is that on a 997 GT3 forum, it's not surprising that the thing that got the most votes was a 997 GT3 RS. So.
But where's the 997 GT3? And I think someone said that. Where is that? There's no vote for that? That wasn't in the poll?
It wasn't in the poll, yeah.
Which is very odd. Like, why wouldn't you have the 997 GT3? Because are people going to vote for the GT3 RS or are they going to vote for the GT3?
Yeah, don't know. But look, all of those cars, you wouldn't be complaining if you had any of them, and I'm pretty sure you'd be having a hell of a lot of fun if you were sort of Sunday driving or caning down a back road in any of those cars. So
yeah, 84 votes, not a big sample, but all those 911s, let's be honest, most of us are out of reach. I mean, the prices of most of them are out of reach. The cheapest car on that list is probably the 996 GT3, and even that is, in my mind, out of reach now. So
what's that, 200 plus?
996 GT3 in Australia,
yeah,
250. The two of them for sale at the moment, which is still for sale, are 250. I think they've come back a little bit. The one, the two that are for sale, 0.1 and 0.2.
Just
RS.
cash it down to cash converters. You get good money for it.
Yeah, I don't know.
No?
The post on Instagram, we just spoke about that before. We'll just talk about it really quickly. This post on Instagram that Frank Walliser posts. What was that? He was posting, I've got it up actually. He was just posting pictures of the GT4 RS, and then he said something in the comments, didn't he? Someone commented and he said,
they're teasing us.
Stay tuned. He said stay tuned. Now, there's not really anything higher than a GT4 RS, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, it's quite a good color, that GT4 RS, actually. But I read something, and I couldn't find it, Steve, that people are saying that it could be a Spider version, like a GT4 RS or Spider version coming. I don't know where I read that, and I couldn't find it before we came on, and maybe I dreamt it. Is that what they're teasing? You think that is a possibility, that there could be a RS Spider? Is there ever been an RS Spider?
Beyond the thing that raced in the American Le Mans series, the DHL sponsored thing. I don't think so. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know the answer to that. But like in modern times, there's never been a topless RS model at all. And I'm assuming if they're kind of true to their company line, they always sort of say the RS is like the track car. So whatever, that's the reason why there is no manual RS, because like a PDK is quicker on track. I'd assume that a roofed car would be stiffer, therefore maybe like there would never be a topless RS car, but I'm talking at my bum. I don't know.
But they say stay tuned, so something's happening. I see Chris Harris made a comment saying send to Bristol for the car, so he obviously wants that car. I also watched Chris Harris' video. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos this week because of the rain. I didn't realize he had an M2 CS.
CS, it's good, isn't it? And he's had that color converted thing to that sort of Irish green looking color.
Well, he said it was a wrap this time. He didn't say it was because if you look inside the engine bay, you can see the blue when he opened it. I don't know. I think it looks like a wrap. I think it looks flat. I think wraps look a bit flat. I'm not a big fan of wraps either. I think they look a bit flat. They don't look like real paint. But what a great car. What a great car. I mean, this Porsche BMW sort of correlation thing, Steve, that people into Porsches are also into BMs. It's quite strong, isn't it? It is quite strong. I've noticed that on owner stories as well, and people I speak to, a lot of people are into BMs, are also into Porsche. Like you, for example.
Current BMs I'm not less into. Like we've talked about it before, I hate that G80 thing, the Bucky beaver teeth.
I don't mind it. I'm starting to warm to it. Like I think Marco might have said that in our chat. I'm starting to warm to it. I saw another one the other day, and I think in the right color, it's not so bad.
It reads like it's an amazing car. Everybody sort of says that it's better than the previous generation in terms of the drive, but I just can't get over the looks. But then I was surprised to see how the new M5, that kind of just gets absolutely raved about by every motor. It's supposed to be amazing. Like, wow. That must be kind of, must be like a sweet car.
Yeah. I think the problem with the new M3, just talking BMWs for a second, I kind of feel a little bit sorry for F80 owners of the previous M3 competition, because I think it
Hello
actually.
to my cousin.
I think it's starting. I think it's made it look really dated. And I'm not saying the other one is great, but it's made that model at the front look really dated, like in a second.
So?
And I think BMW's been a bit mean. I think they've been a bit mean to previous owners because I think they really have aged that car rapidly.
Yeah, Marco said that too, but I reckon I've said this many times. Like in 20 years' time, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would still put money on people in 20 years saying that the F80 is a more classic and a more attractive looking car than a G80.
Yeah, I'll be driving my mobility scooter in 20 years' time. So
yeah, hopefully I won't be. I'll be somewhere else.
Steve will be in a Tesla.
Oh, I will not be in a Tesla.
Hey, I'm gonna hit something here. These EV podcasts, I find them so absolutely boring. I'm sorry. I don't think EV podcasts. I don't think talking about EVs is that exciting. You know, it goes fast, it goes slow. You know what I mean? I don't know. Battery life. I don't know.
What did you listen to? The Johnny Lieberman Motor Trend one?
Yeah, I have listened to Johnny Lieberman. I find that I don't like to criticize other podcasts.
Go on.
But I think that inevitable. Well, the two things I pick up, and you know, I have this thing about reading people. I don't know sometimes, but I find that him and Johnny don't get on. He doesn't get on with that guy very well, even though the guy's the editor.
Other host.
He doesn't look like he gets on with him that well. It looks like there's tension there. He doesn't look comfortable, Johnny Lieberman, where when you hear him on Spike, he's more comfortable. Obviously, this is his day job and whatever. I find their interview technique, I find the other guy not great. I don't know what his name is. The other guy, the editor. I don't find his interview technique very great. I thought the one with Spike was really bad. Like, I thought it was really, really bad.
I haven't listened to it.
But that's just my opinion. I mean, I just don't think it just doesn't come across natural. I'll get into that at the end of the podcast, actually, about coming across natural. But I just don't think it was very natural.
Did you?
But I don't want to listen to EV podcasts. It's not something I'm interested in.
Did you listen to the podcast where Matt Farah went off at Spike about his interview with the head of Tesla?
Not yet. I haven't.
That's mildly entertaining.
I will listen to that, and I'm intending to listen to it. I just haven't had much time. But I need to get back to listening to podcasts again because I haven't actually haven't been doing it.
Yeah, have a listen. I'd be curious to see what you kind of think. It's just interesting that Matt Farah basically started to critique Spike's interview with the head designer of Tesla kind of thing, and basically said he licked ass the whole time. Really? Didn't ask any hard questions.
I'll listen to that for sure. 992s. A lot of people who are listening, Steve, are thinking about buying a 992. I think about it. Mm-hmm. I think about buying a lot of things. But I think, how am I going to get 380,000 Australian dollars to buy one?
Don't worry about that bit. Think about that later.
Sell a limb, sell a house, sell something. I don't know what. If I could sell a house, that is. But what's a good spec? You know, you brought this up. What's a good spec for a 992? And you had a friend of yours or a friend of a friend ask you.
I'll background you. Yeah. A friend of mine who knows that I'm a sort of car enthusiast, knows me as a car enthusiast, literally put me in touch with one of his mates and just emailed us both and introed me and just sort of said, Steve's into Porsches, blah, blah, blah. This is, blah. And he's thinking about buying one. And this person I actually do know. He used to be be one of the head honchos at an agency that I worked at. Literally just sort of said, he's thinking about buying a 992. Any tips, thoughts, etc. And I didn't realize too, just as by way of background, it's not his first 911. He'd driven a 997 and sold that before he moved overseas for a stint. So he's looking to get back into a 992.
And what did you recommend?
I actually was honest and sort of said to him, I don't know a great deal about 992s. I read a little bit of stuff, I quickly had a kind of look online. And his thoughts, his instinctive thoughts were, he sounds maybe like a slightly older kind of guy, older than you and I. And he sort of said that he still kind of drives fairly gently and stuff like that. So it's not like this car was kind of going on track or whatever.
Right.
And his instinctive inclinations were to get a very simple spec. And
and he knew. So what I'd sort of said to him was like, from, you know, all the kind of stuff that I'd heard on forums and, you know, WhatsApp chats and all that sort of stuff, was that basically if you try to order a car right now, you'll be waiting quite a while. So for sure, you could spec it the way that you kind of wanted. But so sorry, he was then sort of talking about the other used ones that were available, which I had a quick look at as well.
There's a really good one for sale. That blue one with the Sportec seats, with that checkerboard seat, there's one for sale. That's I thought that was a really, really well spec'd 992.
But they're all the used ones, like, you know, at dealers, like Porsche dealers and stuff like that. You're still like, they're pretty much wanting 300 for a base 992 with, you know,
you're talking about base? Yeah, the base 992s are about 290. But there's some nice S's for sale at the moment, 992 S's, resale ones. Like I said, I think the one I saw was the blue one with the Sportec seats, which are those checkered seats, which I really like. And I think that was mid-330, 340 or something like that for an S. And it's in blue. It's in the blue you don't like in, what's it called?
Gentian? Genital blue?
Gentian blue, yeah.
Genital blue?
I quite like that blue. I think, I don't know, this is another question that comes, and when we spoke about this before we started recording, it's like, it's not just, I think it's really difficult if you think, okay, I want to buy a 992. First, you've got to think about, when am I going to get it? And like you said, you know, your friend of a friend is like, should I just buy one from a dealer that's already been a demo model or a dealer principles model or whatever it is at this point? Should I buy one of those? They're not really super premium. They don't seem to be at a really high premium, I didn't think. I thought they'd be more than that, and they have come down, the Carreras. They seem to have dropped a little bit in price.
So you don't think they're expensive?
I don't think they're at a huge premium, no, for some reason, which surprises me. And I think that I noticed
to me, I don't know.
And I thought the Carreras had dropped a bit. That's just my observation over the last few months, 6 months or whatever.
Yep.
But I think it's really, really hard, Steve. It's hard to know, one, should I buy a new one? Two, okay, I'm going to buy a new one. What should I buy?
Yep.
Now, should I buy a Carrera?
Or regardless, if the question is basically, are there any, it's a classic thing that you read on forums too, are there any must-have options? Are there something that you should walk away from if it doesn't actually have, you know, be it sports chrono or whatever? So what's your opinion of that?
I think with the 992 you need the sports chrono. I think you want that little button, you know what I mean, which comes with a sports chrono on the wheel. I don't think you get that if you don't get sports chrono, do you? You get extra functions or something, right?
I'm not familiar enough. So sorry, I should caveat, I don't know enough about 992s to sort of...
Okay, I think rear axle steering, because everyone raves about it. I think it's a cheap option. Sports exhaust, it depends on who you are. I would pick it. I would pick those Sportec seats. I love that checkerboard sort of seat. I think that's what they're called, that seat, you know, the one. I would pick that for sure. I would pick lift kit for sure. Having owned a 911 before, I would definitely pick lift kit. In any 992 that I bought, I would option the lift kit for 5,000 Australian dollars. I would forego something else to save the money if I had to, but I would definitely get the lift kit. I would take the RS Spider wheels, but if I wanted black wheels, you have to go with the basic ones. I don't mind the basic ones, the free ones in black painted. And I would get the sport design package for the front and the rear. Even though a lot of people hate the rear with the little painted bits, I think that the 992 needs that front and back done. I think it looks a bit weak without it. Steve?
Again, I don't know much about it. Rear axle steer, I reckon you have to have it too, because it just sounds like the car's so big, it's become sort of intrinsic to making it sort of agile and feel smaller. Even if you're sort of not kind of racing it kind of thing, it sounds like it just makes the car that much better. And yes, it's technology. Yes, I don't know, like even like, you know, really good journos like Catchpole and whatever sort of still think that it's quite good. So if they don't feel like it is, how do I put it, artificial feeling, then it must be a kind of good thing. Sports chrono, yeah, I don't know. The thing about sports chrono is, like, I've got a car with sports chrono, like I've got two cars with sports chrono actually. And how often do you press that button? Very rarely.
But isn't it better now? Isn't it got something better than what it had before? It's much improved.
I don't know. Like, admittedly, in my GT3, the sports chrono, and a 997, a sports chrono means absolute diddly squat. Like pressing that button doesn't really do much. It supposedly affects the throttle response a tiny bit, and it opens the valves in the exhaust, which you can do independently. So you don't need it in a 997. In a modern day one, like, so the other car, that we've got that has it is the Macan. And yes, I don't drive the car in comfort. I drive it in sports mode, but I don't know, like this sort of newfangled thing where you press buttons to modify.
Yeah.
I don't actually know how much you kind of tinker with that sort of stuff.
But you have the buttons, you know what I mean? When you've got the buttons, you don't, you can say that. Someone coming from someone like me who doesn't have the buttons, I miss not having the buttons to press. I want that button. I want something.
But
you know what I mean?
But if I said to you, you only press the buttons for the first 2 weeks and then you don't press them anymore, and like you got to pay extra money for it, like.
Yeah, but I think the 992, the best thing is that wet mode they've got, which apparently is really good, right? The wet mode on the 992 apparently works really, really well. I think Elliot told me that, Elliot, who's on a previous owner stories. I think there is one option I would actually get in the 992, but I have read a couple of people saying it doesn't work fantastic, is that adaptive cruise control, which you can only get with PDK. I don't know what
I wouldn't use it. I've never touched the cruise control in either car again.
But I don't know if the adaptive cruise control is the thing. See, the best option, I think, is the one when you've got the lift kit and it remembers the GPS coordinates and it lifts up your lift front of your car automatically. Mm-hmm. It gets to know your street. I don't know whether that's adaptive cruise control. For some reason, I think it is. But if it's not, that's the option I'm talking about, where it actually, if you get the lift kit and it remembers where you've been and it'll lift the lift without you having to do it manually. Just do it. Mm-hmm. It'll just remember. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really cool thing to have. Don't you? Long as it remembers.
I'd have to drive a 992 to sort of try to judge how low it feels. Like, like if it's as low as my car or your car, then yeah, maybe. But if the design of it, so the front of it doesn't sort of scrape so much, then maybe I'm not sure I'd be spending $5,000 on it. Like I'd be a definite for sports exhaust. I'd be probably a definite for PASM, like having lowered suspension.
Okay.
Then the other areas I'd be spending money on would be the steering wheel. I'm a sucker for a GT steering wheel, and I'm sort of maybe, if I had the cash, the front apron thing that you talked about, the sports design front.
I think it needs it.
I don't mind it. I hate the rear one, so I wouldn't touch that. But,
I think they look better in real life. I think the 992 update, the 0.2, I think they will rectify that front apron look. I think they'll make it look sportier in the base model. That's my guess.
But again, if I was talking to this friend of a friend, and he just sort of said like, oh, like I only want to stop short at whatever the number is, like call it, 280, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that, whatever you kind of get, it's going to be an awesome car. And I don't think in this day and age, even though like Porsche has an options list as long as, tomorrow kind of thing, I'm pretty sure that like even if you didn't spec it particularly highly, it would be a very capable car. And in terms of resale value, A, fuck the next guy, B, it probably doesn't matter so much these days, does it?
Wow, you've got to buy what you like, right? You really do have to buy what you like. I mean, I remember Jeremy, who was on a previous owner's stories, and Jeremy bought the 992, brand new 992 Carrera, bought it in white. I mean, we like I'd probably get GT silver or white as well. I'd get one of the free colors. I wouldn't pay for a color. If you're on a budget.
Aventura green.
But he bought a white, or Aventura green, yeah. He bought a white, right? And we saw that color at Duck and Whale. There was one there. It looks fantastic in real life. It's quite subtle, though. It's almost grey. It doesn't look green. It looks more grey. It's definitely not like your 993. It's definitely not a green. It's more of a grey with green highlights to me. That one at Duck and Whale. But I remember Jeremy, he spec'd the thing where at the back of the 911, 992, you have the two, where it reads 911, where there's the 9 bars and the 11 in the center, how they make it read 911 on the back grille. Mm-hmm. Did you know that? You knew that, right? That design thing. Yep. And the thing which is the 11, which is usually in red, you can spec that as per the GTS, where you spec it, that's in white, so you don't get it in red. And I think that is a good option. I think it looks a lot better when it's clear and it's not red, those two lines. I think that's a good option to get, and it's a cheap option. I forget what it's called. It's one of those exclusive manufacturer options on the configurator, and he spec'd that, and I think it actually does look a lot better. Little tiny things, you know what I mean? Just a little tiny pointer difference. But it's not just
right?
Yeah, but it's not about the spec though, Steve. It's not about what you option. It's like, what do you buy? Now, I just watched that Harry's Garage video quickly yesterday. And also, Chris Harris's recent videos on on new 992s as well.
Yep.
But Harry's once again going on the fact that he did a road test on the GTS, Carmine Red GTS, and in manual, of course. I mean, it sounded amazing. It looks really cool. I mean, I really like the new 992 GTS, especially when it's in manual. I think it's about 380,000 here if you spec it out in a reasonable way,
get one,
sensible
mate.
way.
Cash converters. Just get a cash.
But he was saying he still thinks this is the way to go. It's better than a GT3. It's a better all rounder. I mean, I don't know if that's any.
He's talking a road car.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's any surprise really, because we know the GT3 is for the track, and we know the GT3's become more hardcore in this generation. Don't you think? Is he telling us anything new? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it's probably a moot point for most people anyway, because you can't even get a GT3 even if you really, really wanted one. Like, call it you. Say, like, all of a sudden you've won Lotto, or you actually have been down to the cash converters and sold, like, a family member or two. You can't even, like, even if you really, really, really wanted one, you couldn't get one. Like, the second yellow one that came up for sale during the week is already sold, everyone. And that was, how much was that?
600 something. 600, wasn't it?
So
$600,000 for a yellow GT3, and it's gone already. It's the second one that's been flipped at this one even higher than the previous one, higher price.
Yeah, so
insane.
Say you're in the fortunate position of being able to afford one of these things. Yeah, I don't even know if a GT3 is really in the equation anyway, is it?
But you know what? I look back at the price of the 991.2 Speedster. People were trying to flip them. They were $899, $850. They were the prices of the Speedster. There's still Speedsters for sale on car sales here in Australia, and they're now around $650, $679. Now, you bought one at $850, you're lost. These cars aren't selling. They're sitting there. They're not selling at $679 because they're a $450,000 car. And people aren't seeing the appeal of them, Steve. They're not seeing the rarity of them. The 911Rs that all listed, which all came back down in price to between like $575 and $649, and there was a flock of them on car sales, like 3 or 4 at once, in one period. They sold in a heartbeat. They're gone, But the Speedster's not an easy sale. It never has been an easy sale, and it's still sitting there. I worry about paying that much more, 200,000 Australian over list for a GT3. You'd be crazy to do that, And also the color. Let's go to the color. Let's go to this color rarity price equation thing, because this all comes into buying a new 911, you know what I mean? And also your resale values and whatever. Now, if you really buy what you like, that guy obviously bought what he liked. He bought the yellow GT3, but yellow is not going to be everyone's choice of color either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how hard is that? How hard is that going to be to resell that in the future?
Don't know. In the past, yellow was never moved very quickly. I've always followed yellow cars, GT3s or whatever, and they've always sat there kind of for longer. But then I've always loved speed yellow, and I would actually kind of seek one out if I could. So, but I'm in the minority, or maybe tastes have changed now that like Larry kind of Porsche colors are all the rage, and maybe everybody sort of wants one now. So yeah,
I think it has. I think you're right. All these sort of heritage racing cool sort of colors. And look at Marco's 996 Turbo. It's a great color. I've always been a fan of speed yellow. I never would buy a speed yellow car, but after seeing Marco's in the flesh, I would think I don't have a problem buying speed yellow. I would buy speed yellow over Guards Red. You know what I mean? I would buy it over Guards Red for sure. But this color rarity thing, Steve, when you're buying a 992, and we all know that certain markets, certain combinations are more popular in certain markets. Australians are big on black and black. You advertise a car with a red or tan or white interior, they seem to be slower to sell. But do you take this into account when you're ordering a new car? Do you worry about what that's going to be, that resale market? Like, do you buy a, do you buy a lava orange Carrera GTS and get red leather interior, because you love it? Do you worry about that because you know that's going to be a hard sell in Australia?
Depends on your own circumstances, I suppose. Like, nobody's rich enough to kind of just like hose $500,000 because you like it, sort of thing. Like you spec your car like a Barbie car and all of that sort of stuff. But primarily, like, the car's for your own enjoyment. You know, try not to worry so much about, you know, what the next guy is going to do with it.
I mean, there was a post that was on the Discord, the PorscheCooled Discord, which is a bit dead at the moment. And it was from Bernard, who's been on Honest Stories before. And his thing was, you know, about how his anthracite brown car sold very quickly. You know what I mean? And he was on Honest Stories. He talked about the car on the Honest Stories. And it sold really, really quickly. Some people told him it was because it was a rare color, it sold faster. But he thought it was because that Porsche had priced it lower. You know, they priced it lower, so it sold quickly. Do you think that certain colors you will get a lesser price? Like if you're buying a 911, if it's got a red interior, is it going to be priced cheaper than a black 911 with a black interior? You think that actually impacts price now, that they really do have to price it lower?
It's a fairly general question, I reckon, because I think it definitely depends on the actual car or color that you're talking about. Like, I reckon tastes have broadened, so it's no longer people literally just wanting to buy a black, silver, white car, grey car kind of thing. I think people are much more open to kind of colors. Same with the interior. Like, I think old days people only ever wanted like a black interior. These days, like red and, you know, various tans and browns are far more acceptable and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you then kind of got into a question about, like, I still think like a ruby stone kind of paint color would still not be for everyone. I think you're narrowing your market massively. Or a brown, like call a brown color, like that macadamia color. I still don't think there's going to be that many people that will kind of want that color code.
There's something I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
Matt Farah.
Yep.
His Spider that's gone missing, right? And there's two things I want to bring up here because I thought it was quite funny. He spec'd that in frozen berry metallic.
Did he?
With the red Porsche Spider interior with gold wheels.
Did he seriously?
Yes. So it's frozen berry metallic with the red and black, the Bordeaux and black Porsche Spider interior with gold wheels. Now
that confirms my view that he and I have very different taste.
And no offense to Matt Farah's taste, but he's trying to sell it like it's in good taste. Like, it's scary. And then he had Magnus Walker on the other day. He was talking to Magnus Walker. I watched that on YouTube. And he's saying to Magnus Walker that he told Magnus Walker the color he bought, and then they pulled it up. And he's saying, see, it's like the Ruby Stone.
Cassis.
It's like the newest new Cassis. Yeah, it's like the new Cassis. And it's like, no, it's not. It's pink.
It's not.
Cassis.
I'm sorry.
But like that color with that Bordeaux black Porsche Spider interior with gold wheels, to me, that is just terrible. I'm sorry.
That's terrible.
You'll never, as long as you don't want to sell it ever again. I mean, if you like it, you like it. He's going on about how cool it was in one of his episodes, but man, because I know you like cappuccino and frozen berry metallic, Steve.
Oh God, I've heard him when he had Larry from Ammo on his podcast, and he was counseling Larry on the podcast about how people like him and Larry are, I think he literally said this, that they are the tastemakers. So whatever they do, like, other people kind of think it's cool and follow. Yeah, it was a little bit sort of of a funny kind of comment. And so it stuck in my brain. I know what he was sort of saying, because I think Larry was deliberating the color of his Taycan Cross Turismo sort of thing. But it's like, yeah, look, each of their own. It's cool. It's his money, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I already kind of knew that, the way that he spec'd his Safari car and stuff like that, the interior particularly, he and I have very different taste.
Yeah, that interior wasn't great. But I don't think that looked that bad. I don't think it looked that bad. But I remember, Matt, I don't know. I mean, this is just a thing on podcasts, I guess, where people say one thing and then the next day they're saying something different, whether it be watches or whatever. But I just remember when he was like, he almost bought his 328 GTS off Bring a Trailer, and it was a red one. And he said, I didn't buy it because it was just overpriced. I was bidding right to the end and then I did buy it.
Yeah.
And then he buys a black one. He says, I never wanted a red 328 GTS. It's like, sorry, why were you bidding on one? On Bring a Trailer then, if you never wanted a red one. Like, I don't know. I find these things, these contradictions in these stories. It's like, okay, that doesn't make sense. Spike does it all the time, by the way. He does it all the time.
I suppose it's hard though, because like we are talking about, people like us kind of thing. And it's just because you've captured it on a broadcast, so then people are, pointing out that, oh, but you said this and that and everything else, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, but then like I guess if I was in his shoes, I would probably be maybe more careful about what I sort of said out loud, maybe.
Yep. 992, I would spec in a general color on the outside, but I would spec it in a two-tone interior on the inside. If I was going to go two-tone, I'd spec it two-tone. Otherwise, I would spec it with the Sportec seats because I think they're really good with some kind of contrast stitching. I think it comes with contrast stitching anyway. You can add that in, deviator stitching.
I started watching when this friend of a friend asked certain things. I started watching Nick Murray's kind of videos. He's got 2 very long 992 option videos, and I started kind of listening to it in the background while I was trying to do something else. It's kind of interesting. They really know how to get you on the options, though. Got to say,
they do. I like Nick Murray. I think it's really good. He just made his 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is followers or whatever it is on YouTube. It's amazing. Does a good job. He's funny. I like him. He's got a good sense of humor. He's a funny guy, and he doesn't take it too seriously. And he's got 200,000 followers, which some people like die to get. Trying to work out algorithms.
Yeah, it sort of seems like he's not really that into it. Like he's into it enough to kind of do it, but he's not so into it that he kind of lives and dies off what everybody else sort of says and thinks on social media.
All right. So what do you think, Steve? What's the if someone else asks you what to do with the 992, what to buy? Would you say buy a base Carrera? Would you say buy a GTS? Would you say just make it really simple, really cheap?
I think it sounded fence city. I think I told my mate of a mate who I kind of semi-knew anyway, that he won't go wrong either way. It sort of felt like the used ones were kind of high, and the bit that I was kind of scared of on his behalf was like, like there's no guarantees that your 300 grand doesn't disappear. So it just depends on that situation. In terms of the spec of the car, buy what you like. I think it would be fine if you didn't go to town on the spec and you bought sort of more like a basic specification for it. Like, sounds like they're amazing cars, and I'm sure he'd have lots of fun and enjoy it.
And I think you do have to be careful with color. I think especially in Australia, you have to be careful with color, even though people are buying brighter colors. I think you have to be really careful with combinations. If you're worried about, if you're not going to keep this car for, a long period, you have to worry about it, I think, a little bit. If money's tight and this is a really big purchase and you're financing it, maybe you do have to worry about it. If you've got a little bit of extra cash, I'm guessing it doesn't come into play as much. If I was going to do a 992, I would only do it if I could get not the best one, but I would still probably look at it. I would still probably look at the GTS. I still think after seeing the GTS review and seeing how you can get it in manual and how great it is, I think the GTS is. I reckon that's the sweet spot. And I think you could actually order one, and you probably would get one in 12 months' time or 11 months' time. Where a GT3, they probably won't even give you an allocation here. So I think that's something to consider if you wanted to get one. I'm hesitant, Steve, to buy ones that are secondhand, because if I'm spending $330,000 on a new 992, I really want to spec it the way I want it.
Sure.
So I don't think I would buy one resale. I think you do that with 997s and 991s. And then there's always 991 GTSs, but 991 GTSs are only about 80 and 90 to 100 grand less than a new one. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but for people who are financing, it's not that much money. You know what I mean? If you're paying cash, I guess it's different, but I don't know. There's tough decisions to be made. It's not easy buying cars. It's not easy at all, especially in today's market where it's such a mess. The prices are such a mess and all over the place, and you don't know which way it's going to go.
I hear you on the GTS thing. Like I think Bernard sort of thinks that I'm a GTS hater, which I'm not. I've just always sort of my view of a GTS was like, with used ones, is like, why would you buy a GTS when it's only like it's not that it's a little bit short of a GT3. That was like one part of it.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to order a car and say you're like looking at a base Carrera and you want to sort of add some trinkets and toys to it, if a lot of those trinkets or toys wind up being what's on a GTS as standard, then go for a GTS, because that's probably the better car, and it's a smarter way of kind of getting into it. Like it's pretty much a given that the GTS is going to be better than the base car. It's just whether or not you want to spend the extra money.
And I still say there's a great GTS at Classic Throttle at the moment, that GT Silver manual, no sunroof, which is, I would not get a sunroof. And that's, 285,000 Australian, which is a lot, but it's only got 10,000 kilometers on it. But I think that's a pretty good one. Yep. If I had the money, honestly, I'd probably go with, if I had the money to spend, I should say, I would probably go with that one from Classic Throttle, because it is a manual. It's in GT Silver. It doesn't have sunroof. It's perfect. That's what I found really distressing, by the way, Steve, when I was looking at M2 competitions for sale in Australia.
Yep.
They all have sunroofs. A lot of them have sunroofs. I thought they had a carbon roof. Why in the hell do you want a sunroof in an M2 competition? I found that really odd, and most of them are spec with sunroofs. Is that a BMW Australia thing where they just bring them all in with sunroofs? I don't know.
I just thought these days most Australian cars, I guess maybe I'm stuck in the dark ages too, more when you kind of bought like a car that had been inspected by a dealer, most of the time like a sunroof was kind of part and parcel of that. I don't know, like they just sort of deemed that Australians live in a sunny climate, therefore they want a hole in their roof. I was always sort of like indifferent either way. Like I didn't really care whether it had one or not. I don't hate them as much as the majority of enthusiasts seem to kind of dislike them. But yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that question.
But if I was speccing a new 992, would you option the sunroof or the moonroof?
Would I pay money for it? No,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't pay money for it. No.
And if I did get the roof, it'd be the metal one that's sort of hidden, I guess. That would be the better one to take if you're going to take one. I wouldn't get that glass sliding roof. I don't like it. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, but on the other side of that coin, I'd kind of go, if I was shopping used and, like they only had sunroofs in them, it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, you just take it, I guess, if the price is right, yeah. Anything else?
Nope, not for me.
All right, so let's. Steve and I just had a bit of a chat, and we stopped the recording. But I am going to say this, Steve. I'm going to go through with it.
Okay, cool. It's cool with me.
I'm going to do a little bit of not a speech, but I'm just going to have a little bit of a chat here for a second.
Yep.
And as I said to Steve and I were just chatting about things about the podcast and everything. But as we know, there's a lot of automotive podcasts out there, Steve. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Porsche podcasts. There's a lot of new Porsche podcasts. There's a lot of new car podcasts. Obviously, podcasts are the trend, and they're huge in the US, and they're obviously gaining popularity everywhere else in UK and Australia. And I think, the PorscheCooled Podcast is actually, in the scheme of things, we've done pretty well. And usually I'm pretty modest and I don't like talking about these things, but I'm just going to go a little bit further today, Steve.
No, man, you've done well. That's cool. You can say that.
But I think, PorscheCooled has done pretty well. And I think it's done well. I think a lot of people don't see why things do well. People can't read it. And I think this is probably because the industry that you're in and the industry I'm in, that you analyze things, especially with content and messages and how to get things through to people very, very quickly in a really busy environment. I work with the expo exhibitions. There's millions of people going through there, visitors of each pavilion. So you have to do a quick, it has to get through quickly to people. The message has to get through. I don't think that's the reason why. I think what differentiates PorscheCooled from other podcasts is us, mate. It's you and me. And
okay. I don't like to talk about myself, but I won't. So I won't.
No, I think it is. It's us. It's our friendship. No, it's our friendship. It's our connection. It's knowing each other for over 20 years and being friends for most of that time. That's a big chunk of it. And I think that's what our audience likes. And people have told me so. And I think that's what, resonates with our audience. I'll use that word. And I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that really don't have that connection, And I'm not going to mention which ones, but it just, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of podcasts that don't have that connection. And I think the PorscheCooled Podcast has achieved that, and I think the listeners appreciate it. And I think, our not our fans, but our loyal listeners appreciate that, and they really do connect with us. And as you know, this podcast takes a lot of time. It takes, each episode when I do an edit, people don't believe this when I say it, but it takes 3 to 4 hours depending on how much of a mess it is. David's episode last week actually turned out pretty good considering his internet connection was so bad. We were dropping out all the time. So, and I had like 4 files of David's just to sort of try and get rid of the gaps and put it together. And I think it came out pretty well. So these podcasts, they take a long time. Not that that's a complaint. It's just the facts, And Steve, the podcast, as we always said, is never about money. We have Patreon, and we have some loyal Patreon followers who have been with us from the beginning. But the podcast was all about sharing not just our story, which is what every Friday episode is about. It's sharing other people's stories, and that's what Owner Stories was about. You know what I mean? And I think both episodes, how do I say it? I think both episodes have achieved what have they achieved? They've achieved that, the passion. It shows the passion. It shows the community. It shows, how good Porsche is and all those sort of things. But the podcast is not easy. And it takes a lot of time. So I'm probably going to regret this, but I think for now that I always think things need to change, and I think this is going to be the last episode, Steve, for now. And you and I have just spoken about this, and you don't have any objections.
No.
But I think for now this is the last episode. Yeah, I think this is the last episode. I know it's going to be a surprise for most people. We're not saying we're never going to return, but I just need to like stop it for a bit, refresh, concentrate on my day job, concentrate on a few other things, and then come back and see what's going to be next for PorscheCooled Podcast. Like I said, so Steve, anything else you want to add to that?
No, it's all good. Michael only just told me all of this too, so if I sort of sound, well, I probably wouldn't sort of say that much anyway, to be perfectly honest. Like, I think you've done a really good job, like you kind of surprised the hell out of me, sort of how dedicated you were to all of it, how popular it became, all of that sort of stuff. So like, good on you for doing that. Like, again, because there was no sort of commercial intent with all of this. Like, I know podcasts have become all the rage, and I know you can sort of try to make money. I know there were opportunities where you probably could have and all of that sort of stuff, but that was never the reason why. So like, yeah, it's cool. Like,
the reassurance when you look at podcast charts, Apple podcast charts, and the reviews, the 100 and just so you know, worldwide, over 170 reviews from our listeners. You know what I mean? 176 episodes, started in 2019. And that's about it.
Yeah, like, without sounding like a sad sap too, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change like the way that you and I sort of talk as mates and all that sort of stuff. Like, we had a regular, weekly chat penned in. Hopefully we can still have regular chats, but it's just not recorded, which is cool with me.
Yeah. And everyone knows, Steve, you're a major factor why this podcast is a success. As the co-host.
Yes. See, I managed to get it in.
All right. Like I said, I'll probably regret it, but for now, that's it. Thanks, Steve.
Cool. No worries, mate. Take it easy.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.